So I've three distinct memories of my first few years in Boca Raton. The first thing that I remember is my dad telling me that Glades Road and Military Trail don't intersect. And I have blood relatives here. Like, they can attest to this, that this would totally be a conversation amongst my family, that Glades Road and Military Trail don't intersect. My dad can also tell you how to avoid left turns, but that's like that piece of information that the first thing literally that he told me when we moved here. The second thing I remember about a month after I'd been here was a baby naming at the Boca Raton Resort. It was beautiful and fancy. It was as fancy as a bat mitzvah, but it was for a little baby named Madison Mazer, and I learned to love from that family. And I was with them on some of their happiest moments and some of their saddest moments. And then 15 years later, the mom of that baby introduced me to her brother, and I'm now that baby's aunt. That is how I met Mitch all those years ago. And I'm so blessed that that was my first baby naming, because it makes for great family lore. My third early memory is of lunch with some women who are over here. We were going out to lunch, and they wanted to know what their kids' Torah portions was. And I was like, I am so happy. I have a group of women who care about the Torah. I'm going to be able to talk Torah with these women. And one of the bat mitzvahs was June 12th. And I look in my calendar. I'm like, oh my God, that portion is the spies. But they heard me say spa. And they were so excited because they thought that it could be a spa-themed bat mitzvah. And how amazing would that be? And it was the hardest thing to tell them, no, I said the spies, not the spa. Now, how had I learned about Temple Beth El, this synagogue and this community I had come to? A few months earlier, I had had breakfast with Rabbi Singer and Myra at a rabbi's convention to discuss my interest in Temple Beth El of Boca Raton. He knew nothing of me, but I knew him. More importantly, I knew Rabbi Levin. We overlapped in rabbinical school, and I don't know if I remember events correctly, but as far as I remember, there's a day, we used to use payphones. There was something called payphones once, and there was one payphone in the basement of the New York campus of the Hebrew Union College, which has no windows. I don't know if it does today, but it didn't then. And you would see the fifth-year students get their jobs in front of you and then get on the payphone and call their families. You're watching someone get their job. I swear I remember you getting this job. I don't know if that's my memory or not, but he was so happy. And I was like, where is he going that he's so happy about it? And then a year or two later, I had a fellowship during rabbinical school, and they paid me to come down to the Nifty Youth Convention. It was called SEFTI at the time in Orlando. And I was sitting at a table with Dan and Amy, Rabbi Dan and Amy. Dan was there as a rabbi chaperoning his students now from Beth El, and I was there as a rabbinical student. I was like, this guy is so happy. He loves his temple so much. And so when I came to Beth El, I understood why Dan loved this temple so much. There's another moment that pops up that's a few years later. There was an amazing woman at Temple whose name was Dorothy Resnick. She was very active in sisterhood, and she did something very valuable for us clergy. Our rabbis' manuals, the old ones, are made very cheaply, I guess, and they fell apart easily. And she would see our tattered books at weddings or funerals or whatever, and she would take them and put them together so beautifully. And as popular as Dorothy was, and as many friends we thought she had at Temple, I found out she hadn't been invited anywhere for Thanksgiving. And it crushed me, because here was this woman who was so active at the synagogue, and yet no one thought to invite her, and said, I'm going to invite her to Seder. And so she was supposed to come to the first Seder at my house, that Passover, and she died that morning before first Seder. And because my number was at the top of her book, because she was coming to my house that night, the police called me that morning, and I had to identify her. And I share that story because sometimes we don't know that someone doesn't have somewhere to go to for Thanksgiving, and we say hello for a second on Shabbat, but there's so much more there to all of us, and we just need to be open to learning about each other and opening our hearts to each other, because there's pains and hurts and things that are deep inside, and sometimes it will be too late. Dan Roth, who is the editor-in-chief of LinkedIn, said about our jobs, we spend so much of our lives trying to make sense of what we do every day. These memories I have shared, and so many, many, many more memories that I have at Temple Bethel, have served to me as stepping stones on the pavement that is the pathway to 20 years of Temple Bethel. It is what I do every day. In this Torah portion, Mishpatim, in Exodus 24, Moses and Aaron and Nadav and Abihu and 70 elders of Israel have this intense confrontation with God. And there was a description of this pathway, this pavement of sapphires, as blue and beautiful as the sky. This pavement of sapphires. Why, Rashi asks, is there a pavement of sapphires? Well, these are children of Israel that have built pyramids with bricks, and they've built pathways with bricks, and they need a positive association instead of a negative. And so God replaces bricks of slavery with sapphires of freedom. It is beautiful. That is the way that I see my time here at Bethel. We pave pavements of sapphires. We work to show you that this holiday or that country or those people are important, or that issue is something that we care about. It could be a random Tuesday for you, but I'm naming a baby. Or it could be a boring Saturday night and I'm under the chuppah with a couple. I am at their pavement of sapphires, and it is amazing. This beautiful Torah portion is what I get to experience every day. I feel as when I drive to Temple, there's a pavement of sapphires I'm traveling on. That it is what it is like to work at a temple like this one. William James, my dad's favorite philosopher, he quotes me often, said, "If this life be not a real fight in which something is eternally gained for the universe by success, it is no better than a game of private theatricals from which one may withdraw at will, but it feels like a real fight, as if there was something real." In coming together to a synagogue, and specifically this synagogue, I believe in the words of James, the universe eternally gains by our success as a synagogue. I believe this with all of my heart. I didn't just do a job for the last 20 years. We bettered the universe together. With the foundation of God, Torah, and Israel, I cannot even begin to list the ways this synagogue makes the universe better, one person at a time. It did that before I was here, and it will do that long after I'm gone. I think that Temple makes life more like a holy encounter with God on a pavement of sapphires than the work of slave building of a pyramid with bricks. And no age, no generation, no person is left out of having the potential to have that holy encounter at this synagogue. Not that every day is perfect and COVID has made things harder. I've stooped to the level of bribery with the children of our religious school. I give out gift cards in the B'nai Mitzvah class that will pay attention to the content. I gave out Starbucks cards in confirmation a few weeks ago because I was teaching them the attribute of thankfulness, and I wanted them to go to Starbucks and thank the barista by name directly. I will continue to bribe them because it works and it is a win-win. And then there's our families, the clergy families, who didn't choose this life. We did. After the hostage situation in Colleyville a few weeks ago, a friend posted this: "Few people truly grasp the sacrifices that not only rabbis, but their parents and children and spouses and partners and siblings and cousins make on a daily, if not hourly basis to serve their communities, Jewish and local. My stepdaughters, who I took out the step for at the bat mitzvah of their cousin years ago before I was their stepmom, know that sacrifice. And my own kids raised here, Noah and Shira, what I see in them is what I hope I see, that their mom loves her job, and so they are pursuing what they love. Noah in Los Angeles in the entertainment industry, and Shira studying interior design at UF. They knew that their mom loved their job, and they figured they were going to do what they loved and they were talented at, and I am in awe of them. As a woman rabbi, there was a whole nother layer of stuff. I was pregnant when I graduated from rabbinical school with Noah, and there was a rabbi in Miami who refused to interview me because I was pregnant, and that was allowed. My small part I've tried to play in telling young girls and women I have their back in case they deal with anything uncomfortable, they know they have someone to tell. But I am my harshest critic, as women often are. In the Chronicle, there's a retrospective of photos, and all I can see is my weight and my hair color over the years. If I continue to remain my toughest critic, I am okay with that. But most days, it is not bricks, but sapphires that populate my life. For God's sakes, there's a dolly in the lobby now. This Western wall sculpture arrived a few weeks ago, donated. I love art. I'm like, there's a dolly in the lobby. I love this temple. It never ceases to amaze me. I cannot conclude without the highest praise for our late leadership, starting with President Wendy Whalen and all our past presidents and board members, and especially Aileen Fisher, who gets this bima in tip-top shape, and all our board and incredible staff who pushes us to administrate, communicate, and educate in the greatest way possible, including Aileen and Kira, who have the Herculean task of managing this clergy team. And speaking of the clergy team, I cannot express how deeply we, as a team, love you, how hurt we are when you hurt, how disappointed we are when we disappoint. We simultaneously work together to dream and are so different from each other in the best way, in that way that a valley and a mountain complement each other. From knowing Dan since rabbinical school, having Lori, who is the Lucy to my Ethel, and who was such a good friend that we ended up divorcing and remarrying at the same time, go figure. For real, like, go look at the dates of the divorce decree and the marriage. Greg, who is so humble and wise beyond his years. Michelle, who's zen, kind, Midwestern, is a perfect foil for my intense New York that has gone nowhere, even though I've lived here 20 years. Jake, who is young enough to be my son, but musically mature enough to outage all of us with his voice and knowledge. Amy, who grasps the spiritual from the heavens and brings it here to the earth. And most importantly, Rabbi Emeritus Merle Singer, who believed in me 20 years ago, and who I will never stop thanking for hiring me. Dan inherited the mantle, and it is a privilege to be a resident of this holy house of worship, in this Garden of Eden of a community that is Boca Raton. I can't wait to celebrate your 25th, Dan. I'm bad at math, but I think you and Amy and I have known each other half of our lives. We spend so much of our lives trying to make sense of what we do every day at Temple, but you are the supplier of the sapphires. And remember, that pavement dwells below your feet. So on the days when things are rough, when you look down in dejection and sadness or loss or of pain, on those rough days when you look down, you will see there is a pavement of sapphires. The biblical one leads to one place, but our pavement leads here to Temple Bethel. Just don't expect to hit Glades Road if you are coming down Military Trail, because Glades and Military don't intersect. Shabbat Shalom.